A shocking and disturbing story has emerged from South Florida, one that leaves the mind reeling and the heart aching. A mother, Emily Sabogal, 32, of Sunrise, Florida, has been arrested for allegedly abandoning her two young children in an Uber for hours. The thought that a parent could leave her own children alone, exposed, and at risk for so long is both frightening and incomprehensible. This is not just an act of carelessness. The details paint a picture of negligence, poor judgment, and a dangerous level of disregard for the safety of innocent children. On a Friday night, Emily Sabogal was taken into custody after police responded to a report from an Uber driver who had transported her and her two young children. According to the driver, Sabogal appeared to be under the influence. He noticed a cup she carried, which he believed contained alcohol. But what followed was far worse than anyone could imagine. The driver recounted that Sabogal repeatedly said in Spanish, "He thinks I'm stupid," before reaching over, taking his phone, and canceling the ride. She handed him $10 in cash, instructed him to stop the vehicle, and promised she would be back in 3 minutes. Then, she walked away, leaving her children alone in the car. Time stretched. 1 hour passed. The driver called Sabogal concerned, only to hear her promise she would return in 12 minutes, then hang up. Hours slipped by. The children remained alone, and the driver, growing alarmed, called the police. When officers arrived, they found the children still alive, but thirsty, hungry, and frightened. They had been left alone for hours, confined in a vehicle with no adult present, vulnerable to the dangers of the night. The mental anguish the children must have experienced in those moments is impossible to fully comprehend. The fear of being abandoned, of being left without protection, is a fear no child should ever know. As authorities began searching for Emily Sabogal, they found her walking outside a McDonald's about 2.2 miles from where the children had been left. When questioned, she could not explain why she had left her children alone, nor how she had arrived at the location. Officers noted the smell of alcohol on her breath and her slurred, incoherent speech. Multiple statements she made were nonsensical. It was clear that her state of mind was impaired and that she had made choices that could have had devastating consequences. A further investigation revealed that Sabogal had spent the earlier part of the evening at a restaurant with her children, where she had consumed multiple alcoholic drinks. Restaurant staff noted that she is a regular there, visiting approximately 5 days a week. This revelation adds a layer of repeated behavior to the case, painting a picture of a woman who consistently put her own choices and pleasures above the safety and well-being of her children. Emily Sabogal faces charges of neglect of a child without great bodily harm and desertion of a child. Her bond was set at $1,500 for each charge, and she was released after posting bond. The legal consequences are serious, but they only begin to address the emotional and psychological harm caused by her actions. The trauma inflicted upon these young children may take years to heal, leaving scars that no amount of punishment can fully erase. The horror of this incident lies not only in the act itself, but in the thought of what could have happened. Had the temperature dropped, or had something unpredictable occurred during those hours, the children could have suffered far worse. The possibility of injury, abduction, or even death was very real. This is the nightmare scenario parents fear, and in this case, it became a reality. Every detail of the night is chilling. The Uber driver, initially thinking it would be a routine ride, found himself in a position where the safety of two young lives depended on his vigilance and quick thinking. The simple act of calling the police may have saved the children from a far worse fate. To the hours that Sabogal left them alone are hours that can never be returned, hours in which innocence was endangered and trust was broken. The public reaction to the story has been one of outrage, disbelief, and sorrow. To imagine children left alone, hungry, thirsty, and confused, while a parent wanders miles away under the influence of alcohol, is heart-wrenching. It is a violation of the most basic expectations of care and protection that society holds for its parents. The image of these children alone in the back seat of a car, waiting for someone who may never return, evokes fear, anger, and deep sadness. This case is also a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children. Even in everyday situations that seem safe, danger can lurk unexpectedly. Leaving children in a car for even a short period is risky, and leaving them for hours with no supervision is almost unthinkable. Parents, guardians, and the community must recognize the consequences of such neglect. A single decision, made in impaired judgment, can have life-altering consequences for innocent lives. Investigators have pieced together the timeline to understand the severity of the neglect. The Uber ride began normally with the children present, but quickly turned into a scenario of abandonment. Each passing minute increased the danger. Every minute that Sabogal failed to return, the risk to her children escalated. The law, the community, and the children themselves all bear witness to the seriousness of this act. The emotional toll on the children is a part of this story that cannot be ignored. Children are deeply aware of the presence or absence of parental protection, and being left alone, even for a few minutes, can cause fear and confusion. Being left for hours while a parent is distant and unreachable can create a trauma that lingers for a lifetime. The psychological impact may manifest as anxiety, distrust, or fear of abandonment. These children were exposed to the type of fear that no child should ever experience, and the memory of that night may haunt them for years. This story also raises questions about substance use and its impact on parenting. Sabogal's alcohol consumption was a factor in her decisions. Being under the influence can impair judgment, reduce the ability to respond to emergencies, and increase the likelihood of dangerous choices. When a parent's judgment is clouded, the children are left to face the consequences. The combination of alcohol and abandonment in this case created a situation that was both terrifying and preventable. The community, law enforcement, and social services all play a role in responding to such cases. The quick action of the Uber driver, the response of the police, and the follow-up investigation were critical in ensuring the safety of the children. These responses highlight the importance of vigilance, responsibility, and accountability in protecting the most vulnerable members of society. The charges against Emily Sabogal are a reflection of the severity of her actions. Neglect of a child without great bodily harm and desertion of a child carry serious legal consequences. These charges are intended not only to hold her accountable, but also to send a message to society about the importance of parental responsibility. The law recognizes that abandoning children, placing them at risk, and failing to provide basic care is a grave violation of trust and safety. As the story unfolds, it serves as a warning to all parents and guardians. No matter the circumstances, leaving children unattended or under the care of someone unfit can have devastating consequences. The actions of one parent, influenced by poor judgment and substance use, can create fear, danger, and trauma for innocent children. The incident in Sunrise, Florida, is a painful reminder of how fragile childhood safety can be. It is a story that evokes fear, anger, sadness, and empathy, It is a story that makes us reflect on the responsibilities of parenthood, the importance of protecting children, and the consequences of failing to do so. Every detail, from the Uber driver's observations to the police report, paints a picture of danger, recklessness, and negligence. It is a narrative that captures the darkest possibilities of parental irresponsibility, showing how quickly a situation can escalate from routine to life-threatening. This case is also a mirror for society, forcing us to consider how we care for children, monitor the behavior of parents, and respond to potential threats. It is a story that may cause anger at the adult who made these choices, fear for children everywhere, and sorrow for the vulnerable who cannot protect themselves. The story of Emily Sabogal and her 2 children is a tale of neglect, danger, and emotional trauma. It is a story that is frightening, sad, and difficult to comprehend. It is a story that shows the consequences of poor choices, impaired judgment, and the abandonment of responsibility. The children survived this ordeal, but the night they spent alone in the Uber will likely remain a painful memory, and it is a memory that the world should not forget. This incident calls for reflection, vigilance, and compassion. It reminds us that children depend entirely on the adults around them. It reminds us that actions have consequences, and it reminds us that the line between safety and danger can be tragically thin. The world can learn from this story and perhaps prevent similar tragedies in the future. The case continues to develop. Law enforcement is investigating every aspect of the night, seeking to understand the motives, circumstances, and potential contributing factors that led to this shocking event. Meanwhile, the children are safe, under care, but the emotional impact may linger. In the end, this is a story that is frightening, heart-wrenching, and unforgettable. It is a story that emphasizes the vulnerability of children, the dangers of negligence, and the importance of responsibility, vigilance, and accountability. It is a story that makes us cry, makes us fearful, and makes us reflect deeply on the fragility of childhood and the weight of parental responsibility.